Hi, welcome to the Toddcast for January 3rd, 2012. Longtime viewers of the Toddcast may recognize today's venue as the studio where I did a vast majority of the original Toddcasts over a year ago. I'm back in my little bedroom in my mom's house in Iowa. The reason I'm not Toddcasting from some field or abandoned farm out in the country is that if you can't tell from the even more nasal than usual tone of my voice, I have a bit of a head cold, or at least I feel like I do, and if I do get out into the country, I normally feel compelled to get out of the car and take a few snaps of something in the countryside, and I think if I am catching a cold, that would just be a bad idea today, so I'm trying to stay indoors. But also, you'll probably notice I'll be looking down. I have my computer here because I have some notes on today's topic, which is related to the Iowa caucuses, because today is caucus day in Iowa, and I think that's a pretty good that's a pretty good excuse for me to talk about the culture, or at least some of my observations about the culture of Iowa, because that's one of the things that that happens every 3 years for a whole year, is that the culture of Iowa gets analyzed in some way by many people. And then it gets reported and discussed and thought about, and you know, it doesn't change a whole lot, mostly because Iowa doesn't change a whole lot, but also you know, it's very convenient for it to not change, and there are some things that I agree with and others that I don't agree with, but I think you know, you might find this interesting because I have a perspective that other people might not. Of a vast majority of the things that get written, it's either written by people who are here, who have never really left here and really see no reason at all to leave this place, or by people who aren't from here, don't really want to come here, and really have no plan to come here. Again, I'm somebody who's from here and who left here and lived in another place for a long time, and yeah, who wants to get out of here as soon as possible. But you know, this is my culture. This is where I come from, and I am here right now, so I might be able to give a little bit of an interesting analysis, hopefully. Also, the fact that I'm looking at notes on my computer explains the glasses. I'm not wearing them because it's caucus day, or I'm talking about Iowa culture, and I think that I want to look smarter than I am. In fact, in a way, if I was talking about those things, it would be more apropos if I looked dumber. The reason for the glasses is that, you know, I'm pushing 50 years old, and my eyesight is going, and even though the type on my computer is like this big, I still need the glasses to be able to read it. So yeah, I guess in general, of the people that write about the culture of Iowa when it's caucus time, obviously politics is part of it. So they talk about issues and Iowans' grasp of the issues. And again, no matter if you're somebody who's from here and you're trying to say good things about this place, if you're somebody from somewhere else and you're trying to say good things about this place, or if you're somebody who's from here and you're trying to say bad things about this place, or from someplace else and you're trying to say bad things about this place, there are a number of things that have to be said no matter what. One is that you know, Iowans are nice. It has to be said that Iowans are nice, and that's for a number of reasons, although it's really, for me, it's a little too close to that thing that you say about the dumb kid, or the ugly kid, or the dumb and ugly kid in every family. Oh, they're real nice. You say that about them because you can't say anything else good about them. You know, you feel like you have to say something good about them, so they're nice. That's what it is. And, since Iowa is not representative of this country in hardly any way, and it's hard to say good things based on that, you got to say that they're nice. Even though Iowans, in my experience, are no more or less nice than anybody anywhere else. And in fact, one thing I've noticed since I've been back here, as far as like day-to-day interactions between people who don't know each other, Iowans are much colder, are less warm, are not as nice, is not as welcoming as average people. I'll probably talk more about that later because it's something that's really struck me. One of the people who wrote about the culture of Iowa recently, Gail Collins, who writes for the New York Times, and whose writing I really like. I've liked it since he was writing for the New York Newsday. Talked about how, well, she was in trouble. She was stuck in a snowstorm, and some Iowan was really nice to her. And that's true. If you're in trouble, Iowans are as nice as human beings anywhere. But, so what? If you're really in trouble in New York City, and no matter how gruff people are supposedly are there, if you're really in trouble in New York City, there are no nicer, no more helpful people on earth. I've seen it a lot. And if you're from out of town and you're a stranger or whatever and you're lost or you've lost something, people will go out of their way in New York City to help you. So that's not really a distinct thing about Iowa. The whole nice thing is not a distinct thing. Also, again, because Iowans are so the culture here is so unrepresentative of any place else in this country, people, again, usually pro, have to come up with something about the culture here that makes it okay for them to have all of this attention. Usually there's some sort of nobility having to do with ruralness, down to earth. But again, also they try to say that there's some sort of intelligence here as well. They're savvy. They pay attention to the issues. And, since people never leave this place, you don't live in Iowa because you want an experience of someplace else. In fact, you live here for the exact opposite reason. How would you say that? I mean, what justifies that statement? That Iowans are savvy, that they know about other places. In fact, the exact opposite is true. Unless, of course, Iowans are reading the New York Review of Books or The Nation or, The Economist on the sly, and, that's sort of, I haven't picked that up. But no, they're not. They're reading the local paper that glorifies them. Or if they do read something that's that's sort of savvy, like The Atlantic, it's to read this article by this professor at the University of Iowa about how awful Iowa is, and then they go out and make death threats about them. Yeah, so you need to say Iowans are nice, because they'll shoot you with their shotguns otherwise, and you need to say that they're smart because there's no evidence and savvy because there's no evidence that there is. I don't get that. And I guess what I'm getting at is that Iowans shouldn't be taken seriously because they don't know anything. They don't want to know anything. Even worse, they get pissed when they're taken seriously because, then they get exposed as people who don't know anything. The only thing they don't like about all the attention they get is what it reveals about them. This is some sort of weird kind of brigadoon that every 3 years, this pre-Depression era culture gets dragged into the post-modern era and is revealed as backwards. And then they get all upset when that happens. And even if you say, someone says, oh, they asked the tough questions, like what? I mean, if you look at every single one of the tough questions, at least based on the answers of the Republican candidates, has something to do is how much do you hate people who we hate because they're not like us? Okay, how much do you hate people who aren't Christian? How much do you hate people who aren't heterosexual? How much do you hate people who aren't white? And if you think this whole notion of an entitlement society that gets thrown out by every one of the Republican candidates is not racist code, you're not savvy, okay? Yeah, and this is the place it's not the place that time forgot, it's the place that wants to forget time. And they're very, very good at it, except for every 3 years when, you know, the future or the present comes in here and exposes this place as backward. I don't know. If you, to sum it up, would be that Joni Mitchell song. She was talking about Paris, actually, but, you know, this place is too old, it's too cold, and too settled in its ways. Although I do want to touch upon something that I think is a real exception and is actually kind of exciting, and that's the occupiers, which have been doing a lot, but mostly in Des Moines. And that is something that has changed in Iowa. Iowa is much more becoming like New York State in a way with the growth of Des Moines. Des Moines is like New York City, and the rest of Iowa is like upstate New York. And there's an ever widening gulf between the two places. Des Moines is a place where, yeah, you are going to run across people who have been somewhere else, who are interested in someplace else, who maybe read the New York Review of Books, who maybe read The Economist. They, more and more, they are becoming distinct from the ever more rural areas, like this town. And those are the people who elected Obama. Those are the people who, if there is any sort of progressiveness in this state, they're making it happen. And I think what they're doing with the Occupy movement, especially targeting the Democratic Party, is very exciting. And again, that's a new dynamic. The old dynamic that was here for quite a while, I think, kind of comes out in the article by the the University of Iowa professor when he talked about the river towns. There has always been a distinction between the big river culture, the Mississippi River culture, and the farm culture in the hinterlands. And, you know, that gets worked out in that article. But again, there's long been a difference. I mean, Bix Beiderbecke is from that culture, right? You know, this jazz, you know, Iowa is not a jazz state. It is a big band state, but it's not a jazz state. But even though Bix Beiderbecke is technically from Iowa, he's from the Big River, which is, that's the place where the farmers, the agricultural people sell their stuff. There's always, you know, that's sort of like the town and country. And the town and country dynamic is getting worked out a little bit more in the Occupy movement, and I'm gonna, you know, try to pay attention to that, because, you know, nobody around here is occupying anything except for a booth at the Pizza Ranch. Oh, which I'm gonna wrap it up by talking about the Pizza Ranch, because a lot of this whole Pizza Ranch thing is, Gail Collins had a couple funny things to say about it, and this is all I'm going to say about the Pizza Ranch, is that they make broasted chicken. And broasted chicken, if you haven't had it, is like Vegemite for Iowans. And as a, you know, someone who is from here originally, I go to the Pizza Ranch. Why? For the broasted chicken, and I stuff my face with that with that stuff. Yeah, I really have to work to keep the weight off when I go there. All right. Hope you're able to make some kind of sense of this. I guess it doesn't make any less sense than just about anything else that's been reported about the Iowa caucuses, but I don't know, that's what I've come up with so far. So I have to actually get going, because I'm going to the basketball game a long ways away in rural Iowa tonight, and maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow, the high school basketball team. But until the next Toddcast, take care.